All right, let's jump into it. It's 5th of February, 9:54, Thursday morning. And look, I'll start off with gold because yeah, metal's got a little bit of a sort of shake overnight. It's funny. It's like when you look in the context of what we've seen over like this is literally the last sort of 4, 5 days or so. Um, yeah, this little move here is like, oh, well, you a bit of a shake. What are you talking about? This is actually around $200 or so. I think that it came off last night. Um, $230 in a straight sell down here. And really sort of wiped out that whole sort of day there. So it was a bit of an odd sort of day. Like Asia was absolutely pumping. If you get into a lower time frame so we could break it down a bit more. This was the sort of trade that we were kind of looking at. I was like, okay, look, if we get a close above 5,000, 5,100 was the target. And of course, 5092 or so, I think it was the high thereabouts. And then obviously it just sort of went flat through the European session. And so you got this big expansion coming up through Asia, flat through Europe, a bit of this sort of almost sort of like channel that it had kind of been sort of setting up through here, with 3 touches, 4 touches or so down the bottom here. And really, once this thing gave way, it just went bang and pummeled back down. So, look, it's in a little bit of sort of no man's land at the moment because with these sort of things, you got to sort of work out. You got, of course, you're going across multiple time frames, working out, okay, what leg of the structure are we in? I mean, if we look at this as a big sort of broad thing, you would sort of say that, and this is why I was on the short side up here, because more often than not, your structure should prevail. I mean, look, you can kind of sort of say that sort of, I mean, the last, well, 2025, but the last, month as well, has been kind of technical analysis has kind of made you look like an idiot because a lot of the stuff that kind of should, air quotes, should be happening doesn't happen. We get a lot of V-shaped recoveries. And so that was the sort of thought here that, potentially this thing sort of would just be coming back up like this. And, as I said, I put a post up on Twitter, more sort of in relation to silver. But those people are insane. Like, I'll get back to gold in one second, but like, this is silver, right? 40% or whatever the hell it's just lost here. And you look at Twitter and people are like, yeah, man, now it's going to 200. Like, it just lost 40% in like 2, 3 days. And people just, oh, we're upgrading our forecasts. Fine, yeah, maybe, certainly. If it takes out this level over here, of course, yeah, you could say this is a big shakeout because remember, if we go way, 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 way back, where is it? Geez, I've got to get onto a higher time frame here. But if we go back to April last year, this point here, you can see this kind of thing. Look at this. 2 moves down. So I've just got to pause this. So I keep getting 1,000 alerts. Um, this is what I assume people are sort of referencing. Uh, this kind of sort of big sharp move here. And then once it comes back out, boom, look at this move. And here we go. Da, 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 da. The problem with that is that, just because it happened here at this little thing, I mean, how much was that drop? That drop was actually pretty good. I nailed that drop there. Um, and we were short there, but that's a 16% drop. So I mean, look, percentage wise, that's obviously quite hectic at the time, but the idea that you're going to get this down here and then, at this point down here, you're already saying people are saying like $200 in like um in 6 months time and all these kind of just crazy sort of things. Anyway, it's just consider it's a bit of a sort of temperature check on it all because when people are so blindly bullish, like it's crazy. Sort of like you've just lost 40% and people are already going, yeah, it's going to 200. Oh, silver's 600 now. Like, and you like it is utterly kind of insane. But anyway, the point the point is that when so many people are like, yeah, championing that, yes, we're going higher, we're going to 200, 600, whatever these numbers are, where does the pain trade become? Well, the pain trade comes wiping those people out. To be honest, like that's what it's about here. It's sort of like it moves up and then sort of like, you know what, they'll smash it back down. Look, silver actually sort of recovered fairly well, all things considered, through here. But it doesn't matter. It does. Sorry, no, it doesn't matter. Of course, it matters. It doesn't mean the move's done. It doesn't mean that the sell down's done. We can still go above these levels over here. The bounce was enough to put it into pretty much what is no man's land. So anyway, let's get back on the gold and sort of go, okay, well, what are we doing here? Because as I said, structure-wise, this was the initial sort of thing before my rant. You got your move down. Whoops. You got your move up. And then most of the time, you'll get this move here. Very rarely will you get that. And this is what these people are calling for. V-shapes up to 200, whatever, that kind of sort of garbage. So we're in this kind of leg here, officially in this kind of leg here now. Now, this is the important one because this is the one that on this structure, which is on the 4 hour here, but you know, you could say it's also on the daily, this kind of thing here as well. It's going to have a swipe at the lows. Jeez, this looks a very messy chart. It's going to have a swipe at the lows to give us a bigger, broader picture of what's really going on. Metal's just opening here, a little bit of a gap up there. This leg down here is going to give us, is this it? High, low. That's a sustainable way to recovery, to sort of getting back up to the highs. Is this, it could also take out the lows here and come down a little bit deeper. It could also come down here, give us a double bottom, and this could also break through and give us a lower low. Like this is the whole thing. This is like just purely looking at it at a chart basis. Don't worry about sentiment of whatever you think. Like if gold's going to, you know, 6,000, that's great. What we're trying to ascertain is sort of like what part of the structure is this in? If this is it, if that's all the pullback is, and we take out the highs of overnight, so let's, my little drawing tools. If we take out this level over here, let's leave it at red, whatever, then most likely we're going to see a big push because this was a nice little shake here. And if you take, if the market sort of like the buyers are here, the buyers are here, the buyers have held this 48.80 zone very well, very strong. If that's it, and the buyers move it straight back up here in a quick amount of time, then that's just really just a little shakeout, take out all the stops that are under 48.80, because that was a big, you remember this was the support that we had on going back, is only going back on Tuesday now, but that was a big support through here, and it held and it held and it held and held and held. And so what you probably would have wanted to see under here for this to really sort of melt down was a bunch of stops to be under here and this to be triggered to come down further here. But the fact that sort of it came down and didn't get that cascade, buyers step back in here again and again, has obviously resulted in this thing going and sort of getting a bit of a bounce back up here. So at the moment, really what we're doing is that we're defining a very large sort of range. You need to get this close underneath here, or you need to get this buy up above here. So the range that we had sort of building up the other day, which was sort of like, you know, below 48.80 or above 5,000, that was kind of your trigger. You could say that, okay, a close above 5,000 here, we'll sort of see a little bit of a bounce up. I mean, it's opened up and just run here. So we're not going to sort of rush into the sort of positions. But certainly if you get a close up above 5,100, that's going to be quite bullish for another leg up. And then, you know, we're looking, excuse me, next sort of target's 5,180. So I'd love to say it's actually opened up quite strong. Where did it open here? Opened at 83 up to $20. Like, so it's bounced 100 and something bucks already. Like this is really sort of flying all over the place here at the moment. So if you move this sort of stuff out of the way so we can actually see the chart, that's kind of the play of the moment. Look, 5,000 is a big psychological level. You know, from the 90s, we can see, you know, before it actually broke through yesterday on Tuesday night or whenever it was, early Wednesday morning, technically, we got that rejection from the 90s. It's up here testing it again now. So we got to see, are these sellers that were here going to step back in here again? And as you can see, you're getting a small reaction here. Doesn't mean that sort of it's the thing. It's just, you know, we're bound to get a little bit of a reaction there. That's fine. If the sellers here can hold, then really you're kind of looking in this kind of area here for a direction. So look, I would say that's your bigger breakout above 5100, but potentially even a smaller level above here, above sort of 5100. But in saying that, I think, you know, you got to be prepared to get some pushback from around this area here. I mean, as you can see, it's slowly sort of pushing back a little bit here now anyway. But really the trade here is to sort of see larger picture, is that it for the pullback? Or are we in a smaller structure which is doing this? Down, up, and then continuation down to this side here. Or, like I said, are we going to get one of these V-shaped recoveries? And as I said, V-shaped recoveries are quite bullish. It's not sort of really sort of looking at the structure. I mean, even this sort of move down here, we had V-shape, very strong, came back, higher, low, take out the high. That was our confirmation, moving up over there. So is this down, support, take out the highs, continuation up over there? Or are we going to see this kind of move back down over here? So it really is a little bit of no man's land. It was a very sharp sell down, but as you can see, this level 48.80 held like an absolute rock. It actually came down underneath here, tested this 47, like on the money, and as you can see, it's sort of pushing back up here quite strong. So it's not a really sort of clear trade on the open here, certainly. But the two levels that I'm kind of looking at here is obviously a close above 5,000, again, like we saw yesterday. But that doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to the highs. It just sort of means you could be just wiping out. Basically, like this structure here, this is your breakout point. Could just be retesting the breakout point, and then you come back down over here. So it's like this is a potential sort of trade. If you get the close above 5,000, you do have maybe a little bit of upside here, but it's not a guaranteed break to the top side. The break to the top side is going to come from a close above 5,100. Because if you get up here, there's also, if we do this here, that's your body fill line. Where are we at? Body fill line. There's a chance that you just reject back down from there as well. So close above here with that candle could very much still see that play out. Whatever, with the bottom candle there. You get the point. Anyway, the idea is that it could still sort of reject from there. So to me, it's sort of like, albeit a very big range, you know, I mean, like, what, 230 bucks or something, pretty much what we saw in the entirety of the sell down last night. I think that's the safer bet to sort of get a close below 48.80 or a close above 5,100. All right, so moving on. Pretty much the same sort of deal with silver here. Silver we saw actually, so which chart were we using for this one? Gotta get these charts on point. Boom, boom. All right, this is the one we were looking at. So pretty much, look, we had the sort of like, just to sort of unpack a little bit of the previous kind of stuff. We had the sell down, obviously, you know, massive sell down. We all saw this. This is where we were looking for the buyers. The buyers held this zone, recovery coming up over here. If we take a fib from the top of that sell down to the bottom of the sell down and we drag it back up, we can see that silver has very drastically underperformed gold in this kind of recovery. It's sort of like back up and pretty much just rejected from two things here. The 38%, which is a strong continuation retracement. Let's remember that, and that's why, you know, this is really precarious for sort of any sort of metal longs at the moment. And also this previous zone here, which we've put on the 4-hour, you can see this is like a little support that we had, sort of going back, you know, to just before sort of we had the last explosive move higher. This sort of thing here. Where were we? So, I mean, 26th of Jan. We're not going too far back in time. But the point is that sort of like this little support through here, as soon as they touched it, bang, they sold down here. And this is the big thing I was talking about. Sort of like everybody was out there with these charts. I'm going 95. I'm going 120. I'm going 200. All these sort of things with it all. You know, this very much could and probably will by the end of the year see a higher level. However, you know, V shapes aren't the norm. They're just not. You need structure to build, and you need to see a progressive push up of the buyers. This is what we are kind of almost seeing here. But again, you got to respect the fact that it rejected quite swiftly in the scheme of things from a known area, because this is support, we held, till we didn't hold, cut through. These people go, oh, great, I've got a chance to get out. Very quickly, bang, they got out there. So same with gold. It's a little bit of a sort of a no man's land here. We've got this previous highs. Actually, let's drag it from this one because this seems to be a little bit more of a level that it's respecting. This 83.47. That's kind of yeah. I mean, that's a big sell down. Like it was almost a $10 sell down on silver there. Look, it is obviously bouncing quite strong, so you can't sort of you can't shake the whole idea that they are sort of actually trying to sort of rip this thing back up and that, and trying to sort of make it be like, hey, look, you know what, the buyers are here, the buyers are here. So I think sort of for silver, again, these are massive ranges, but this is just the levels in which we're sort of dealing with at the moment. But that's really kind of where you're looking for a topside move. You need to get that close. You need to get that close above. Um, oh, so 2 seconds. Right. Yeah, so you really kind of need to get that close above. Yeah, so 92, call it, because obviously that got slapped quite sort of hard there. So, but I mean, look, the thing is with these, it was a sharp sell down, but in the scheme of things, this is kind of what you're almost sort of dealing with. You could see relative to the kind of moves that we have been seeing, even prior to the sell down, these were very violent swings up and down. I mean, this little wick here was like 15% or something, or maybe from the high to the low of that next candle. Where are we at here? Um, yeah, 13% or so. So where's the wick? Yeah, 13% or so from high to low through there. And then obviously, boom, just kept on going up. So you got to think that for so long, this just buy or every single dip mentality has worked so much that the market doesn't really know how to do anything else. They just sort of go, okay, well, yeah, it's worked every other time. Let's just do it again this time. And this is what they're trying to do on a larger scale here. And for the most part, I mean, look at this: dip, buy, dip, buy, dip, buy. So what you kind of have to sort of see is a change of that kind of mentality here, which will come with a move to the downside, which is obviously a close underneath these lows of last night. And I get it that these ranges are absolutely massive, but that's unless you're sort of just completely firing up pip for pip. These are kind of the things that are going to give us the next direction with it all. So the fact that it sort of broke this channel and it's coming up under the underside here makes me cautious that this thing isn't just retesting here, which is kind of like, the body fill thing. I mean, it's come right back up, 89.25, Jesus. I mean, they got down, so it's $6 bounce as well. But if we get onto a lower time frame, to me, this kind of feels like it's just going to come up here, reject this top side, and then sort of come down here. Because again, if we look at our little structures with it all, you're up, you find resistance, you're back to find support at previous resistance, you get this third move here. The third move tackles these highs, breaks through, happens again. Resistance, support, now we're getting this move here. The question is now, is this move going to do double top, higher high continuation on with the show, or is it going to give us a lower high? In which case we look at this part of the structure and the focus goes back onto 83. So the fact that we broke the channel makes it plausible that now we're going to see this move come, more likely than that move come. So that's really your question now. Is this going to be just yet another buy the dip kind of thing and you ignore the fact that it broke the support? Or is this just a, hey, let's buy every single dip kind of thing, exit position to now see a move towards this low here? So you got to sort of, and this is the whole thing. I mean, there's no sort of direct straight answer. It just depends what you're looking at with it all. But structure wise, if this move, we're in this leg here now of this up move. So technically, if we just look at sort of like, ignore the whole sell down, we just look at, from here, well, it's obviously up, moving up, moving up, moving up, moving up. So in this sort of like, in that sort of realm of the structure, we're moving up to sort of test double top, higher high, lower high. the fact that we broke this channel puts it very much in the idea that this momentum has waned, albeit this moving up here, this could be moving into giving us a lower high, which would be a retest of the underside of this channel, which then would put our focus more onto, if it does reject from here without taking out the high, puts it onto a lower high, and with a lower high, puts the emphasis back onto 83. So I think that's what I'm kind of looking for with silver here. So that this is really just a bounce to then sort of start to sort of look at this kind of move potentially either to a range through here, or for this to sort of break through this level here, in which if it breaks through here, then we're starting to look at, oops, that move there. So this is why this move through here is going to be very sort of critical to sort of see if this bounce fizzles out prior to taking out these highs over here. So I know it's a lot of rambling, but the idea of this is to use obviously your horizontals, but also your sort of angled. So in this case, it's the range. Sorry, the channel. My headphones are running out of battery, so hopefully I don't lose sound. But the point is, if this rejects here, we get a lower high, puts the emphasis back onto 83, 84, this area down here, to either then get range or break through. And if we break through, then obviously that's a lower high. And when we start to do something along these kind of lines here, we start to go, what's our move through here? And it'd be something that seems to line up pretty well with this right already. You know what I mean? We can't start to get a move down here. So as you can see, we're getting a little bit of a rejection here already from what, 83. So it's coming back. It's pretty much back at its open price now as well. So again, look, if this thing sort of fails to take out the high over here, the focus is back on 83.50s. A close down underneath this 83.50 is going to open the door to another swipe down at the lows, and then we start to look at this internal structure coming down here. If that does happen, if we do break 83.45, we can look at the higher sort of time frame of this structure, and really you're looking for this big area, albeit a very big sort of a couple of bucks thing. We can start to update this a little bit better now. We're really looking back down to mid 70s. So I think sort of, and this is what I say, like, the full range for next direction is quite high. I mean, quite large. It's about a $10 range or so, but the resulting move is also quite large as well. So, I mean, the fact that it's broken the channel, retesting the underside, overbought, makes me think that this is just a bounce to retest to then sort of start to see this a bit more of a move down here. So I'm probably leaning in the camp of, this thing rejecting and coming back down and testing overnight lows. All right, a whole bunch of that moving on. Aussie, Aussie's very much, I covered this yesterday and I said, look, Aussie's it's defining itself some levels here at the moment. I did sort of say that, look, after the RBA, we were gonna struggle to stay above sort of 70 cents. And so I closed my longs in that. I did have the plan potentially to start shorting it, but then I was like, look, all the fundamentals are so strong. Strong jobs. We got, the unemployment was right down, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense so much to really be shorting it unless we get back up to these highs over here. If we get up to the highs over here, then I'd probably look at to short it, because I don't think that, unless we get anything sort of majorly new, sort of like to justify going even higher, like, Fed cutting rate, oh, Fed's already cut rates over there, but you know what I mean, something that really supports the idea of it going much lower, so the US dollar getting much weaker, that, this would really break out of here. So for now, I'm going to hold off on this, but I think that's kind of the areas in which I'm kind of looking to act. If we go here, so if we say sort of sell zone, buy zone, but as you can see in the middle here, it's just a little bit no man's land. Structure-wise, we've got a lower high, it's moving down, so you could probably sort of think probably around these sort of low mid, sort of 69 cents kind of areas. But there's no guarantee on this. We are actually seeing the dollar break out a little bit. I have a feeling that's probably partly what we sort of saw to the metals coming off last night as well. So yeah, there's a couple of things going on, but for me, Aussie's a little bit of a wait and see kind of thing at the moment to sort of have like as to sort of what direction. But I think realistically, we're potentially just going to find itself a little range down here. So buys down in sort of like low to mid 69s, sells up around the high sort of 70 cents kind of periods there. All right, and sort of shoot along. We got the dollar, and the dollar is kind of breaking out. I had a little channel, kind of pullback channel here. Jeez, this problem having 8 different charts. This is kind of what I was looking at with the dollar. This potential sort of channel, sort of flag pattern that we had here. And as you can see, it's tried to pinch, and it sort of came up, and then obviously got that little breakout last night. Did sort of hit into this little horizontal across the top over here. So make this a zone. This is going to be a confirmation line. So a break and close above here. Yep, actually, what am I doing? Oh yeah, putting an alert on that. So above 97.45 messages, we're going to say breaking out, breaking high. I've got a short-term target around the sort of 98s. I've covered it a few times. It's a higher time frame structure in which it's a sort of back test of a previous channel that we had. Again, this is the problem with having 50 different charts. Well, this is my tinfoil hat moment one. This is the level here. So this is kind of the play that I'm looking more at for the dollar here, which is basically short-term upside. As you can see, it's sort of found itself that little resistance line, just the same on the different chart, doing a little bit of a flag. If we break above this level here, like, we can see this is support, it's acted as resistance. If we push through here, I think, pretty much we're kind of going to be looking up into 98, which will see another swipe at the lower metals. This was the plan, so why are short metals? This is the idea that we get a bit of push up here. RSI is set to support. This is on the daily. You break above the highs here. You see a little bit of a squeeze up here. You see metals squeeze at the lows. Then you reject the dollar from the underside of this rising support. This 2025 falling resistance. So it's a bit of a confluence around that area there. And then what we look for is obviously a more sustained couple of day rally in the metals, and we look for the dollar to come back here. But what we want to see then is the buyers move from here to move up on their bid and see sort of a bit of a push up here. And then this becomes a bit of a sort of fake out move under these lows. This on a monthly as well. You can see on the weekly here, but on a monthly, this held where it needed to hold. So a rejection of continuation is going to see a reversal. Doesn't mean necessarily out the top over here as of yet, but it means that, okay, we tried to go down, rallied up when it needed to, seeing the move here, this could potentially still carry on for a couple of weeks or so. So, it's not to sort of say that the dollar's complete. All right, so back onto where we can sort of see here. So yeah, as you can see, it's trying to bounce, and that it's really just sort of consolidating up around the top side here. You could say this is building out into like a little flag. There's a little straight thing here, different color. So really, break above sort of 97.70s, 97.80s, then that should sort of see continuation up to the top side there. In terms of data news, I don't think we got a bunch. We had ADP overnight. Actually, this got an update. Came in a little bit weaker than expected, but obviously didn't really seem to affect the dollar too much. We are missing a couple of bits of data this week. The JOLTS didn't come out. ISM did come out, which was a little bit of a beat, which is a bit better for the dollar there as well. A bit of Aussie data coming out this morning. Expected a bit of a tick up there for it all. And when we go, okay, UK is looking to have their rate decision later tonight, just looking to hold. ECB looking to hold. Oh, no, oh, wait, what day is it? Oh, no, that's, yeah, this is tonight. Jolts, I don't think is coming out. And we should have had NFP, but that's because, of course, it's the first Friday of the month. Due to the sort of very short temporary shutdown, has basically stuffed all the data again. So we're not getting that data. So maybe that comes out next week. I don't know. We'll see how we go. All right, that's it from me. Tougher for the metals just in the short term.